So hello everyone, welcome to the HiReach Final Demo Day. I hope you're fine. I am Marisa Conidi, the Communication Manager of HiReach Project. I work for Intersoft International at the R&D department, and I will be hosting this event for today. Let me share my screen. So, okay. I hope you can see my screen fine. Okay. So at first, I would like to say a big thank you to everyone who is attending this event, and I hope that you will enjoy it. We have a lot of interesting results and ideas to share with you. Also, I would like to thank all the HiReach partners who are definitely part of this event. Our keynote speaker for today, Mr. Paulo Ferreira dos Santos, and of course, our final 5 startups for our acceleration program who will showcase a proof of concept of their transport poverty solutions. And now let's say a few words about the HiReach project. HiReach is a 3-year EU-funded Horizon 2020 Research and Innovation Action, and it started in 2017 and it's ending this month. And it falls under the topic Improving Accessibility, Inclusive Mobility and Equity, New Tools and Business Models for Public Transport in Prioritized Areas. Joe Bernardino will present later the scope of the project, some more results, and of course the acceleration program called Startup Lab. And now let's have a look on our agenda for today. After my talk, we will start in a while, as I mentioned before, with Joe Bernardino from Productized, who will introduce us to the HiReach project and the Startup Lab. Then we have Kodrus Alexandru Panea from Polytechnica University of Bucharest, who will present the software tools developed within the framework of HiReach. Then we continue with the startup. At 11, we have Sergio Paniagua-Lara representing Lemmy. After Sergio, we have Juan Arevalo with TrialFi at 11:15. At 11:30, it's time for Renner Perkins and Citymas. Then we have 15 minutes break. And then we come back at 12 with Hugo and Dreamwaves. Paloma Martin Benito with Hoop Carpool is next at 12:15. At 12:30, we welcome Paulo Ferreira dos Santos, founder and CEO of UberRider. And finally, a farewell from Cosimo Cifi of TRT, the coordinator of HiReach. Please don't forget to use the chat for your questions, as we have Q&A sessions after each talk. So we'll try to make this event as interactive as possible. And also, if you face any trouble, any technical problems, please also write it in the chat. And thank you all. And now let's pass the floor to Joe.
Hi, Marisa. Thank you. Can you hear me well?
Yes, sure, we can.
Okay. Let me try to share my screen first. Okay, you can see it?
Yes, we can see it fine. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you everyone for being with us in this final moment of the HiReach Startup Lab. It's the demo day of the 5 startups that made it to the last stage, the 3rd stage of the program. And for all of us in the HiReach team, it's a real pleasure to have followed them and to see their progress, and now today to see what they are doing in the pilots where they are working. I will be presenting you before introducing the startups and other speakers. I will be presenting a bit about what HiReach has been and what the HiReach Startup Lab has been. My name is João Bernardino. A little bit of words about me. I have worked for 14 years in consultancy in the mobility and transport sector. 2 years ago, a little bit more than that, I decided to change path and I founded a startup. So I had the whole startup experience. It was a failed one, but it was a huge learning experience and a world that I really enjoyed. So it has been a real pleasure to be present in this program, the HiReach Startup Lab, where I have been one of the people responsible for managing the program, for coaching the startups, and there are things that you only understand perfectly after you live them. And before yesterday, I arrived in Lisbon. I arrived back in Lisbon. I have always lived in Lisbon. And for the last 6 months, I haven't, because of the COVID-19 situation. Me and my family moved to the village, which used to be the village of my grandparents, who are passed away already. So we went there, and it was a completely different life. And that's when I actually understood in practice how it feels to live in a place where you are completely dependent on yourself and your car to go anywhere. I always lived in a big city, so I didn't exactly know what that was. I could see how it could have felt to my grandmother uh, when she had to go to the pharmacy, or when she had to go to the doctor, or when she went shopping. It's a completely different life, and but there are also solutions that come up in these circumstances, and that's what we're looking for. An example for us has been that we didn't have to go shop outside almost any time, because we had vans, we had itinerant shops coming to our front door with vegetables and milk and all the daily commodities that we needed straight at our door. And this was profitable for this business, of course, because they were stopping in each village, and they had a lot of people coming. Each time they were always selling, so it was a profitable business, and it solved the problem of mobility, this specific problem of mobility, of how to shop. It has been an amazing experience. I'm now back in Lisbon, and it's a real pleasure to be here. So HiReach has this goal to develop innovative mobility solutions to improve accessibility in areas and for communities in need. Give me just a second, because my screen is partly, I cannot see it. Okay, now it's, no, still not good. Okay, now it's good. Yeah, so we have mostly in cities, all these new mobility services, ride hailing, car sharing, bike scooter sharing, mobility as a service, carpooling, urban shuttles, autonomous vehicles now coming up. In modes of transportation where you can always be connected, you can work while you go, but this only serves a part of the population. This is the middle-aged, independent, living in urban areas with digital literacy. A big part of the world is not like this. There are people who live in rural or peri-urban areas, specific groups like children, like the elderly, like migrants with literacy issues, people living in rural areas, people with disabilities, low income who cannot afford a car or other mobility transportation forms, or even women in some circumstances. These are the groups that HiReach has been looking at and trying to seek solutions for them. But can we find them, and how? Well, the approach of HiReach was to believe that we needed to find viable business models, because if there are not viable business models, the ideas can be nice, but they will never scale. So they should be easily replicable services that can be provided at affordable prices and or with minimum subsidies, targeting low density and transport poor segments. The project was constituted by these partners. It included mobility consultancies, universities, European Passengers Federation, and for 3 years, we have worked in different dimensions in this problem. The first part of the project was about identifying the problem, understanding it better, and looking at some regions with specific issues. And then the second phase was exploring ideas, and the last phase was developing solutions. We had the HiReach Startup Lab program happening from the middle of the second phase, and it was basically essentially the last phase, the phase of developing solutions. So we needed, we wouldn't rely on the project team to come with solutions. We wanted to have entrepreneurs with us that will be capable of designing solutions for these people according to their real needs. So what was the HiReach Startup Lab Acceleration Program? It had some ingredients. Of course, the startups, they weren't only mobility startups, they had to focus, maybe not as a core business, but they had to solve problems for at least one of these segments. We were looking for pre-seed or seed startups. We had a network of mentors and of course the HiReach Consortium network, which gave support to these startups. The pilot hosts, which were companies, organizations, public institutions that we engaged in the project and which we offered the possibility for startups to work with them if they were solving a problem that they wanted to be solved. And finally, last ingredient was the Open Toolbox API, which the idea here was to come up with open software solutions for startups that have low resources and that could use resources that are already there. All of this was operated with the support of the Impact Hub Vienna, who helped us in the organization and identifying mentors. So they were part of this whole process, which had 3 phases. We started with the boot camp involving more than 20 startups, some of them still at the idea stage, where we had a 1-week in-depth into defining business models, identifying potential solutions, and so on. From these, we selected 10 startups who got the financial support and had a 3-month acceleration period. And finally, where we are now, the piloting and testing. Here we selected 5 startups who got an additional financial support and which are supposed to run pilots with host companies that were identified during the project, either by the project or by themselves. These startups, the 10 startups that we selected for the acceleration program were B2Ride, ChildFi, CityMass, Dreamwaves, Hoop, Lamilu, Mobito, NAMI, Neobility, Tandem. All of them performed greatly in the acceleration program. It has been really difficult to choose 5 startups for this last phase, but we are very happy with the choices. So today we have ChildFi, a children community transportation, CityMass, a mass platform for reduced mobility people and other people as well, but they focus on this group particularly. Dreamwaves, sound-based navigation for blind people. Hoop, carpooling for everyday rides, focusing in this program in hospitals, hospital workers and hospital patients. And NAMI, demand responsive transport for low density areas. In particular, they develop management software to manage demand responsive transport. They work with pilot hosts, respectively Lanoria, Valpibus, I cannot say this name, Hills Gemeinschaft, Hospital El Escorial, and the Puglia region. So I will show you a video, but we are running a bit late, so I will not. You can see it in the website. It's a really great 4-minute video of HiReach. And before I introduce the next speaker, which is not yet a startup, is Kodrut, about the API tools, open software tools. I'd like to mention to you, in case you want to discuss this with us, that we're considering doing a HiReach Startup Lab 2.0. So this time, instead of integrating in it with European funding, to work with hosts that will be interested in this. So if you might be interested or know someone who could, please get in touch with us. With no further delay, I will introduce the next speaker. Marisa, if you can put your presentation, I'll stop sharing mine. Just a second. Okay, yes. So the first speaker is a member of the HiReach Consortium from the Polytechnic University of Bucharest. His name is Kodrut Alexandru Panea. He's a software developer specialized in mobility tools, and he will present us what has been done by the HiReach in terms of making available open software tools in the mobility field. So Kodrut, are you ready?
Yeah, hi everyone, and thank you for the introduction.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
I will share my screen now to start the presentation. Okay, tell me if you are seeing what's happening on the screen.
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Panea Kodrut Alexandru. I'm one of the developers from UPB, University Polytechnic of Bucharest, and today I will present our contributions to the HiReach project. So one of the tasks of the HiReach project is to develop new open source tools or APIs that can improve transport conditions for vulnerable people. Considering this, after some research and discussions with the startups, we considered and built the following solutions. One is a geofencing API, and the second one is a congestion API, which follows a microservices architecture and is actually formed from 3 APIs. The 2 others are a prediction API and an API gateway. I will present now shorter what every API should be doing. So the geofencing API. The geofencing API is a RESTful API designed to monitor travelers during a planned trip and check if the predefined route and all its aspects are respected. So if something unusual happens, it will inform the supervisors in real time about the issue via web notifications or mobile notifications. Some use cases that we could think of for this geofencing API is maybe monitor elderly people, monitoring kids when they go to school, for example, monitor blind people, monitor car rides or bus rides, or any other feature that it's involving geofencing and you could think of. The API can detect and notify in real time the following events. So first one is if the traveler does not respect the predefined route and goes off the specified route, it will get a notification. This is basically the definition of geofencing. Besides this, it has other features that I will not go through now because I will go through each one of them in the demo and it will be easier to understand. The second API that we developed is a congestion API. Again, it's a RESTful API built to track congestion spots and crowded areas using real-time location data coming from mobile devices. A use case is you need a mobility app. You have a mobility mobile app with a fairly large user base. The mobile app installed on a user device will send location data to this API, and using this data, the API can calculate live congestion in different spots requested by you. So by using this API, you can, for example, show crowded areas on a map or plan a route avoiding these crowded areas, or predict future congestion to enhance route planning using a machine learning algorithm. So as I said earlier, the congestion API is using a microservices architecture and is actually formed from 3 APIs, the main congestion API and 2 others. One is called the prediction API, which is used to forecast future congestion using machine learning. And the second one is an gateway, an API gateway, which we built to aggregate data from multiple congestion APIs. The point of the gateway is to allow multiple companies to share their data while keeping the data private in their own private databases. Because the more data, the more accurate will be the congestion API. This is not the end. I will start a demo now. I will start with the geofencing API, and for the geofencing API, we built a nice demo interface to make it easier to present and understand what the API should do and how it's working. I will refresh the screen. So for this, we are applying geofencing to a target. The target is called John Doe. He's supposed to go from the green marker to the red marker, and he's supposed to follow the blue route. The geofencing API is using web push notifications. So first step is to subscribe and become a supervisor, and allow our browser to receive notifications. So first thing, we will allow the browser to receive notifications, and now we will just init the geofencing session, and when I will press this button, we will receive a notification which will say that John Doe started a new fence session. Now, if you look on points, some color points, some checkpoints, which actually have different meanings. They do different things. For example, you can get a notification when you reach a certain checkpoint, or when you reach it later or earlier, or when you go off piste, or when you wait for long in a spot without moving. So our target, if doesn't respect any of this, the supervisor will receive a notification. So right now I will just simulate that our target, John Doe, just moves to the green area. It will just jump. In reality, this will not happen. It will just go slowly to there. So when we reach here, we will receive a notification. First is that it didn't reach the blue dot, because it is supposed to be here at 7 a.m. and it's because it didn't reach it in time, we will receive a notification. And the second one, that it didn't show up because I was having my mouse over it. It was saying that we reached the spot, which is the green circle. Now the orange area, when I will click this, it will show us that we arrived earlier, because it is expecting us to be there at 14, and we are not still there. So we receive a notification that telling us we are earlier. Again, the blue area will tell us that we are later. The purple area, this is where we go off piste. This is what the geofencing does. It will notify us that we went off piste, but because we might receive some wrong location data, it will not just notify us from the first time we receive this location data. So it will need to do some retries. We will retry 5 times. So if I click this 5 times, it will just notify us that we went off phase. The red area, this will wait for 1 minute, and if we don't move from here, it will send a notification, but I will not wait right now for it. And then this is the end. It will notify us that it reached the destination. And this is actually it. This is how geofencing works, and this is how our API is supposed to work. Besides the web push notifications, the API can be used with mobile notifications, for example, for your Android phone or iOS phone. This demo is on the GitHub repository. So if you want to implement this, this is a good starting point, because this is demonstrating how the API should be used, and it's a good starting example, which will make your life easier if you want to implement the API. Now, besides this, I will demonstrate. I will go to the congestion API and to have a quick demo for this. For this, we don't have a nice user interface, mostly because this is easier to demonstrate, and it just needs some HTTP requests. So as I said, the congestion API is telling us the live congestion that is happening right now in a certain spot. In this case, for the demo, I simulated that there are two persons somewhere in Bucharest in a bus station. The bus station is defined by these coordinates, the latitude and longitude. And using the congestion endpoint of the API, I will request to tell the API to tell me how many people are in that certain spot within a radius of 10 meters. So because I simulated two users, when I will send a request, it will just give me a response, which is just a simple integer, telling me how many people are right now in that certain location. So we can change the latitude and longitude, but if I will change this, it will just not give us any data. It will just return 0, because I didn't simulate any persons anywhere else. And besides this, as I said, it follows a microservices architecture. We built a prediction API, which predicts how many people will be in the future again in a certain spot requested by us. Based on the history of data that the congestion API is collecting. So for this, again, we need the latitude, longitude of the spot that you want to make the prediction for. And this time we need a date, a future date. This is 4 days in the future from now. For this, we actually tried to simulate a typical day that will happen in a typical bus stop. For example, in the morning, there will be more people because they will go to work. In the evening, there will be, again, more crowded because people will go off work. And in the night, it will be less people. So here, if we send to the prediction endpoint a request calling how many person will be at 18, this is usually when people go off work, we will receive a prediction value which is pretty high because we simulated pretty high data in that time. If we change it, for example, I don't know, 23, this is mostly in the night, it will send us less people. So it's just telling us that it will be like 1 point something persons in that spot. And actually, this is it. This is all the prediction API is doing. For this to happen, there are many things happening in the background, like sending, taking location data, transforming it into time series data, taking this data and sending it to the prediction API, which is a separate module, training a model with this data, and doing a prediction with the trained model, caching the model, and then sending the response back to the user. And yeah, everything is happening actually this fast because we did lots of optimizations to make it as fast and reliable as we can. If you question the accuracy, we actually have nice documentation explaining everything and what we did and how everything works. The accuracy is good. We have a good model, a good machine learning model. Yeah, you might not understand everything that is happening here, mostly because an API is not supposed to be user-friendly, is supposed to be software developer friendly, and to make it software developer friendly, you have to explain every bit of the API, and we will not have time for this today. But as I told you, both of the APIs, the congestion and the geofencing one, are public on GitHub. You can check the documentation. You can take it, use it, modify it, distribute it. It has a license which is which you can do anything with it. And if you want to implement it, of course, you have our full support. Just contact us and we will have a longer meeting where we can explain everything that the API is supposed to do and how to use it, and any other question that you have about this API, both of the APIs. So that was it from me. Thank you for your attention. And now, if you have any questions, I will be happy to respond.
Thank you, Panea. For the questions and answers, I would suggest, because we are lacking time now, that if you have questions for Codrud, to put them together with questions for startups, and we can go back to Codrud within the startups presentations. For doing that, for putting questions, please do, and do it in the questions and answers part of the Zoom app that you can find below. You just press Q&A and put your question, and we will read it. We will select questions and read them. For each startup will take about 8 minutes, and then we'll have 6 to 7 more minutes for them to answer any questions. So the first startup is NEMI. NEMI is software as a service for demand responsive transport for low density areas. And their presentation will be done by Sergi Paniagua Lara, who is the business developer of NEMI. Sergi, are you there?
Yes, I am. Hello, everyone.
Hi, Sergi. Nice meeting you. Okay, let's go with it.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Sergi Paniagua. I'm a business developer at NEMI, and today I'm going to walk you through what's been for us to launch a pilot within the HiReach project. So where are we launching our pilot, and what challenge are we tackling? We are launching it in the south of Italy, and what I'm showing you now is a map of the region of Puglia, and it's the public body itself that elaborated it. And here you can see depicted in red the main urban cores, which they call poles, and gradually towards the green, the less populated, less dense areas, which they call inner areas, and which are less accessible, are further from the main services, and have poorer quality transport, public transport services. And specifically in this region, we're going to be launching our bus services in this part that I'm showing you now with an arrow, right at the bottom of the hill, if you can imagine the shape of the country on a map. What are the main stakeholders involved in the launch of this pilot? First of all, the region of Puglia. I already mentioned them. They are the public body that's responsible for funding public transport services in the region. The inner area Sud Salento, and this is an association of municipalities on that inner area, that green area that I was showing you, in our case at the bottom part. And they manage, actually, they approve the launch of demand responsive services in the area. And they decide or they need to approve important things of the definition of the service, like where the stops are located. Ferrovie del Sud-Est, which is the operator. We are bringing the software solution, but they are the ones putting the vehicle and the driver. So they're an essential piece of this service, this pilot that we're launching. And they're part of the national group, the Railway Operator of Italy. And they don't only offer train services, they also offer bus services connecting the train stations with the towns around them. And not to forget, of course, the HiReach project, which was of great help throughout the whole launch of the pilot. So let me tell you how the process was. We started by making all the changes in our software tools to adapt them to the Italian market. It's the first time we were launching a service in Italy, so we had to translate all of our software pieces. So the user app, the driver app, and the back office. And here you can see an example of the Italian app that we recently launched. And then on the operator's side, they did an amazing job at creating this web page with all the information about the bus service, the bus chiamata that they call it. And here they explain things like how to download the app, how to register, and how to make a reservation, and other information about the services like the stops and the schedules. And let me go into more detail about each of these services. So, like I said, there are two services. We are launching with two vehicles, one serving the TAD1, TAD stands for Transport on Demand in Italian, and another vehicle serving the TAD2 on the most southern part of the region. And the idea with these two services was to connect coastal destinations, so towns or locations along the coast, with the inner towns, the towns more towards the interior, and the train stations. When we started working with the operator in the definition of the services, they had an initial idea of what kind of service they wanted to launch. And it looked like this. So it was a bus line connecting the train station at the top with the train station at the bottom, and along the way, going through all the coastal destinations on the right. But once we had meetings with them and we explained in detail our solution and how we operate our services, and they could really understand the benefits that our solution can bring, then we reworked this initial proposition, which was our starting point, to make the most out of our solution, to bring all the benefits that it can bring. And the result looks like this. For the first service, the TAD1, it's a service composed of 34 stops that's connecting 9 destinations, including the inner towns, different inner towns with the coastal destinations, where the longest possible route is 53 kilometers and where we can offer a frequency of 1 hour and 45 minutes, which in another context wouldn't be a great value, but there's only so much you can do with one vehicle serving such a big area. It's the most we could do with this kind of line. And you might be thinking now, what is this thing I'm looking at? What are those red lines on the map? So let me explain. These red lines are all the possible itineraries that the bus can perform between stops. And we draw all these possibilities. You see there's not a clear itinerary looking at the map like this, so that when some stops are not requested, the bus just skips those segments of the itinerary. So the idea is that if no users have requested the stops at the bottom, the bus will go through these ones that have been requested and then turn around and go back to the starting point. That's how we optimize the expeditions, the trips. And for the second service, the process was the same. We had an initial proposition and we ended up with a service that includes 38 stops, connects 15 destinations, and where the longest possible route is 71 kilometers, so even longer. And because of this, a bit of a lower frequency, 2 hours and 15 minutes. So what benefits are we bringing to the user with this solution? Well, first, we're offering more connections because these are areas with less demand because they're less populated, less demand for mobility. We are able to offer more stops, and that way we're connecting the inner towns with the train station, and at the same time the inner towns between them and with the coastal destinations. We also offer shorter travel times because of this optimization of the route that I was telling you about. And most importantly, we are giving them a permanent mobility service. And I say this because the idea for the operator before they got engaged in this project was to launch a summer service. And that's why their initial proposition was only connecting the coastal destinations, because that's where most of the demand is located. And so that was where it was most profitable. But the idea is that after this pilot, if the pilot is successful, and if this becomes a public bus service, the idea is that these stops that we located in the inner towns stay there. So we're offering always permanently this possibility to the citizens to always request a bus. And for the operator, they benefit through the fact that they travel less kilometers because of the optimized routes. And in this case, it's because they don't own the buses. They pay a rental, they pay for a rental, and it's based on the kilometers that they travel with the buses. They have fuel savings, and they also have lower maintenance. Unfortunately, I cannot show you results of the pilot, like some data that has been collected because it hasn't started yet. It started actually just yesterday in the afternoon. But if you are interested in knowing how it goes, it will be a pilot that will last for a whole month. So if you're interested in knowing how it goes, don't hesitate to contact me on my email address or call me by phone. I hope you found this interesting, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Sergey.
Bye.
Apparently the questions and answers section is not working, at least for everybody. So while that is the case, do use the chat for any questions. And since we don't have them yet, I will ask you, Sergey, you had this process engaging with several stakeholders, building with them the solution for your business and for the development of your business. What have been the most relevant lessons that you've taken from this process?
So it was a great learning process because we hadn't actually been engaged since the very creation of a demand responsive transit service. We have other services running, but in most of the cases, the operator or the public administration came to us with a clear definition, and we just introduced that information on our platform and operated those services. It was the first time that we were starting kind of like with a blank page, even though, like I showed, the operator had this initial idea, but we really had the chance, and I'm very glad that we could work together to do this. We really had the chance to improve this definition and do whatever we thought was best, and that's how we came out with that. So this was a big learning for us, really engaging in this process of defining what's the best service that our solution can bring, and at the same time we learn as well what our solution can do, and for what kind of use cases it works best. So these are other things we've learned, because it was the first time, for example, that we were managing such long lines, because like I showed, routes with up to 53 kilometers or up to 71 kilometers. And here we learned about other things, because we have to keep a balance always between, because we have these flexible routes, we do have like a variability that we have to inform the user about at the beginning. We give you this provisional pickup time, but it can change up to this time if other users request it. And with such long lines and with all these different possibilities for routes between stops, the variability increases a lot. So we had to also think very, very hard how to manage this kind of issues. You know, if we offer a variability that's too big for the user, if it's unacceptable, what can we do to solve this? So these are things that I think we're going to be learning throughout the pilot, throughout the whole month. And I hope to also receive feedback from users in this regard, if they find the variability acceptable or not, for example.
Really interesting, and really looking forward to see those results of this pilot. There is a question from Nathaniel 10. It's a short one. How many buses are planned for these services?
So there will be 2 buses. One bus will do one service, the TAD 1 that I was showing, and the other bus will do the TAD 2. For the moment, it's not expected to have more than 1 bus in each service. So it will work like this.
Okay. Sergey, thank you very much. Good luck and good work for this coming month. And I will now give the floor to the next speaker, next startup. And the speaker will be Juan Arevalo from ChildFi, a carpooling solution for families. Huge pain for many people who have to take their kids and have to define the way that they move to work because of this aviation in the trip. The most often outcome is that you have to take your car, which is not very sustainable. So ChildFi is working on this. Juan, are you there?
Yes, good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Okay, let's go for this.
Good morning, everyone. Finally, this week, our children are on their way to school, to the academia, to all the different extracurricular activities. Yeah, it was due to COVID-19, and it seems that now we are back to this new normality, but COVID-19 is here to stay. So families, we are facing quite a number of problems. So first of all, it's difficult to achieve work-life balance. But of course, right now it's also an issue with school transportation due to the lack of services and the fear of contagion. And there is a huge uncertainty right now in terms of new working schedule and also school hours. And we'll have to see what happens with the new cases. So this is why we created ChildFi. And what you see on the screen is a small video that we have prepared for our new landing. But today we're going to show you kind of a real live demonstration of the product that we have developed. So this is the kind of the splash animation for users to log in. So as you can see, there's the car moving around with the families going from to the office, to the school. So I'm gonna log in. I'm already registered in the platform. But if it is the first time that you are doing so, you will have to go step by step and follow kind of all the onboarding tutorial. Or you can always skip the tutorial and go straight and see the added value of being part of ChildFi. So this is what you see when you first log in. Okay, so it's basically your membership. So basically where your kids go to, the clubs, academia, schools, and so on. Then the trips for the day and the upcoming trips. So if I go under profile, you will see also all your details. You can also change the language if you want to. Spanish is available in both, the application in both in English and Spanish. You can edit from here your list of addresses or pickup point locations. You can edit the information about your children. But what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna show you how you can take advantage of the application. So let's pick up this academia. It's an English academia. So I'm gonna try to offer a trip here. So it's very straightforward. I just can say who I'm driving with, one of my kids. I'm gonna leave from my home, and it's gonna be, the trip is gonna be today at, let's say at 6:25. and I have 1 seat available, okay? So I'm just creating a trip, okay? So that's the trip that I'm gonna do today. So it will be listed here, as you can see in the screen. It will be today from my home address to this academia. So please, Marian, try to request a seat in this trip. So in the meantime, I'm gonna show you the map with the origin and the destination. So this is what actually users can see about the trip. And then when Marian requests the trip, I will get a message, okay? Such as this one. Okay, Marian wants to join my trip to the academia. So I can discuss with her the details, and if I like it, then I can approve it, okay? And then automatically the system will generate kind of what we call an authorization form for both families to sign in. Right now, Marian is signing this authorization form, okay, with all the details about the family, but also the kid traveling in this specific trip. So I can also do the same exercise and edit the data that I see in the form, add more information here and there as requested. And as you can see, I can also sign it here. Okay, so if I click save, that's already done. Okay, so that's kind of a summary that the trip will take place today at 6:10 in order to be on time for the English class. And basically, now if I go to the trip information, okay, I will see that right now I have a pickup location, okay, which is Calle Rio Mesa. That's where Marian's kids live. Okay, I can see it also in the map, the region, the destination, and then of course now there are no seats available, as you can see on the screen. And as soon as I start driving, I can just click here, start driving. Okay, and once I finish, I can click here at end of this trip. And of course, Marian will get notified when her kids arrive to the academia. So that's pretty much a very quick kind of demonstration of how it works, but we have done quite some progress in the last 4 months. So we work on the graphical design of the app. We developed actually 2 different versions for Android and for iOS. And during July, we incorporated our company. We work on different kind of promotional activities. And we worked quite hardly during the month of August, debugging the app and testing the app, and also in terms of GDPR and all the legal aspect that we had to cover. And in September, we launched the first version of the app. We have also launched a landing page with more information about our service, kind of work with different promotional activities to give more visibility to the service that we are offering. We were on the radio, on different journals, and we have also partnerships with the Federation of Parents Associations, with the Association of Journalists here in Malaga. So here's the business model. So we have a B2C, okay, so families paying for the service and we take a commission out of this, and the B2B, okay, schools and clubs that pay a monthly fee. And market size, we are talking about 6.6 million, and we are targeting 4,000 for the first year. So there are quite a number of competitors, mainly in US and kind of indirect competitors, these babysitter platforms. But we are quite different because in a way that we are connecting families that they go to the same club, the same school as our children. So and we use this as a predefined destination. Here are the metrics for the pilot that we are using in terms of number of registered families and so on. We are planning also to do a trial in rural areas in October, thanks to the hosting institution. And here are some numbers, okay? So we have been working with 30 families and approximately 15 schools. And we have this partnership agreement with the parents associations that will also allow us to grow rapidly and include more families in the app. So we are talking about the official product launch that is happening right now in 2 different cities, actually. And then we are targeting for the first funding round kind of in November, around November this year. So of course, none of this will be possible with this amazing team of co-founders, but also kind of advisors, business developers. And we really thank you, HiReach, for all your support, for all the mentors and all the organization of the events. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Juan. So as a first initial question, and I know this is a hard one, and please select something to answer because your journey has been so long. You started in HiReach at idea stage, so you weren't sure yet what your product will be. And it has been so satisfying to see this evolution. So, but if you will have to select one or two main lessons from February till now, what will you say?
Well, first of all, I really would like to thank you, HiReach, for all the support. I mean, as you said, we started with just an idea, and we have a real product, we have a solution, and there are many lessons learned, of course, in this process. But I will focus only, well, in the most kind of first, more important aspect that I will say is about the trust, okay? Because it was from the very beginning, one of the first comments that we got from the families, no? Okay, is this solution is gonna be safe and how? And so I think that it has been an exciting journey and we learned a lot, and we realized also that these clubs or schools approach could really work because we see that families, they rely and they trust way more other families that they know by face, but they know because they go to the same kind of club or school and so on. So I think that this is kind of a differentiator element that help us to build trust on the solution, on the service. But also I think that the hosting institution, the La Noria, play a key role in our project by helping us to build more trust on what we have today and on the service that we are offering. And of course, also having worked on all the legal aspects, considering the situation, the legal framework here in Spain, I think it's quite an important element that parents really appreciate to see as part of our solution.
Great, and that is actually related to the next question, which was a question by Nathaniel Tan again. How is the screening process, or I would say, how do you envisage your screening process of the users for the children's safety? Because as you said, there is a major trust issue.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of the process, we verify every single family that joins the platform. How do we do this? Well, first by email, but also we ask for the identity card. So we have to make sure that the person that is saying is for real, no? So there is the legal aspect covered. And also the same applies for your vehicle, the car that you will use for the transportation, and so on. So we validate and we verify all the details before the trip actually can happen, no? So we make sure about all these details. And then in terms of data privacy and so on, we are GDPR compliant already. So we take care a lot of all the responsibilities as a company to make sure that we protect the data of our users.
Great. We also have a question from Alejandro Moledo. I guess, well, it is about how much these solutions, in this case, carpooling solutions, are accessible to people with reduced mobility. And I think in the case of, in your case, ChildFi, you're still very much at early stage. You probably haven't been able to consider that. Your focus group in terms of what were the target groups of HiReach has been children. That was
exactly.
But there have been other two startups in the program also focusing on carpooling for adults that might have something to say about this, and we have one of them with us today, which is Hoop. So I will reserve this question for them, maybe. Yeah. Thank you.
If we have time, Joao, I can answer part of that question because that person also said that it was directed towards the previous presentation as well.
Okay.
And well, I can say that we include a feature on the app to reserve seats for people with wheelchair users. So that's one way of increasing the accessibility of the service. So the buses are adapted for wheelchair users, and the user can reserve such seat through our app. But also we received early feedback from an association of visually impaired and blind people in Italy. And they told us to include a feature through which the user, a blind person, for example, can notify us that they're that user with special needs. And that way we can also automatically communicate to the driver, you know, you're gonna have this user at this stop with these needs. And this can be extended to other collectives, you know, it can be extended to older people who maybe cannot, you know, approach the bus and have to wait a bit. Like things you have to take into consideration, you know, when you're getting towards stop, if you have to get closer maybe to the platform on the sidewalk or things like that. So we've received this feedback, and it's great. We really appreciate it, and we think we can increase the accessibility through these things. That's it. Thanks.
Great, Sergis. Thanks for coming up and answering this one. I will ask Alejandro not to forget it and to bring it back in Hoop's presentation, because it might be relevant. Okay, next startup coming up, represented by the CEO, Rene Perkins. They have been working on a mass platform for reduced mobility persons. Rene, are you there?
I am certainly here.
Hi, good morning. Okay,
Good morning.
Let's go for this.
Good morning. My name is Rene Perkins. I'm the co-founder and CEO of CityMass. Today, I'd like to talk to you about our inclusive travel data platform, but specifically our white label mobility platform for tackling transport poverty. Our CityMass HiReach journey actually started with a dedicated team for joining the bootcamp in February earlier on this year with a great bunch of people, as you can see the pictures in the background, with a vision to tackle transport poverty. And we were lucky enough to be selected to be top 5 in June and have further funding for further developments of our technology. In September, right now, our project is already live in Portal with our hosting company, Valpy. October onwards, we'll be focused on our efforts on commercialization of our technologies and our impact on tackling transport poverty. But more importantly, I'd like to share our learning with you on our HiReach journey. From a planning perspective, the more input, early engagement the client has, the better results we will get. From an execution perspective, a more systematic build and process will save lots of time and resources. And from testing and pilot perspective, to have pre-pilot objectives defined before we start the pilots is very important. And we have a huge amount of help from our HiReach mentors, and we're very grateful for that. I'd like to remind everybody our pilot plans for our second phase of HiReach program. We had a funding to further develop online ticketing payment and functionalities of Cody, supplemented by Ada, a voice assistance, and Valpy dashboard to enable efficient operating. We have done more than that. We have also developed a bus driver module to allow real-time location collections, as well as the bus driver can validate tickets in case there is a failure from the user self-validation process themselves. Our technology is live both in Android and iOS store. Please follow the link to download it and provide our feedback. And next, I'd like to share with you our pilot results. We have 47 participants in our pilots, and 87% of them will travel more with buses if you're using CityMass white label platform. 79% of them will spend more than 5 minutes using our app. And what's more, 78% of people would find ticketing and payments very useful, and more than half of them will save more than 15 minutes. And I'd like to specifically point out, 10% of them will save more than 30 minutes of their time using online ticketing payments. And that's incredible. And here are some customer testimonials from our pilots. They think buying tickets online is very good. And yes, because it's easier to see other Valpy lines in Bolongo and Penafel area. And they find real-time information which helps the passenger to know the reasons for bus delay. And also they find real-time information of the bus position is extremely important. Now, how big is this market potential? We talked about in a previous phase where in Valpy specifically, we have 450,000 per annum of market size. Within Porto area, 2 million. And given approximately double of the population in Lisbon, we estimate 4 million in Lisbon area. In Portugal, 14 million. And in Europe, across selected travel pool regions, we see the market size to be 1 billion euros. Now, post-pilots, I'll focus on commercialization. How do we go about doing that? We have a very flexible SaaS pricing model based on the features of the operator and any mobility company select, such as online ticketing, payments, journey planning, real-time locations. Now, what's in our pipeline at the moment? We managed to establish contact with Couriers, which is one of the biggest tram and bus company in Portugal, and had a discussion with them in terms of using CityMass platform and its technologies to help make their app more inclusive. Also, City of Lisbon has a program called Urban Innovative Action Program, where they have a focus on helping disabled people to travel from A to B in the city. In the UK, our attractions with Surrey County Councils, where we're collaborating with universities to help the councils to run efficient public services for their citizens. In Camberley Council, it's very interesting using CityMass technologies to demonstrate a 5G mobility user case. Now, what is CityMass capability? Not only will provide this valuable product, but we also launch our platform. At the same time, when our pilots go live with Valpy in Porto in Portugal, and our platform enable disabled people to check the places of accessibility information before they travel, and the real-time accessibility information travel from A to B. And we enable the users to provide feedbacks to crowdsource back, and we use machine learning to predict the accessibility information with 70%, in some cases 100% accuracies. We help business communities on our platform to be inclusive of people with disability and help them to grow and tap into that untapped market segments. We have our CEST plugins where we enable digital inclusions and helping disabled people to be able to interact with any digital product and services properly online. For example, Repage enabled visually impaired people to interact with our digital interface or any website interface. Our contrast features help people with color blindness to be able to read them out properly. Our bigger text and cursors reading guide will help the elderly to interact with online and websites. And on top of that, we have our white label mobility platform, which we demonstrate. For more information, you can go to our website. And now I'd like to play a video of our pilots with Valpy Bus. And enjoy, and we would love to take any questions and suggestions or feedbacks.
Thank you, Rene. We already have one question, but before that, I'll ask you the same as the other startups. Please choose one or two lessons that you've taken in this process.
I think a lot of solutions are great ideas, but actually when you come to execute it, you come across many kind of hurdles or small things that you have to jump over a hoop. So always plan longer than you think that you can achieve. Have contingency plan. I think that's one of the lessons we learn, and also the kind of, you have to adapt to the situation sometimes, and situation changes from 1 month before you plan it. We have these pilot plans in a short period of time. We managed to done a successful pilot, but it's the adaptivity that I think startup needs to be always prepared to adapt to the situations and thrive forward. And that's the lessons I think I like to talk about.
Okay. And Andre Marquez is asking, what is your unique value proposition? If this, I know that this might be changing along the way, but
yeah, I think the value prop.
What's your take on that?
I think the value prop of Citimas is its capability and its focus on inclusiveness for people, inclusive mobility. I would say that we have not only the data, the accessibility data and global platform on our Citimas platform, but also able to provide that kind of value dynamic data that impacts the users, to travel from A to B. So for our white label platform, we include our coding technology from a digital perspective, digital inclusion perspective, because of the digitalization across the globe in all sectors, also including mobility. Everything is an app-based or website-based. Our technology enabling that digital inclusions and people with different type of disability impairments to access digital products and services is immense. I mean, we have 40 million people and 1 billion according to UN across the globe. And that's not including, hidden disabilities and aging populations. It's sounded quite grim that, we all become disabled when we get older. So we need a bit of help in order to continue to grow with the world, basically. I think that's our unique value prop.
Great, thanks. I guess we're closing this first part of the event before the coffee break. So it's grab your own coffee break time. Please be back right at 12 for Central European time, or 11 Western time, and we'll come up with 2 more presentations by startups and our keynote speaker. So see you in a moment. Have a good coffee.
Cool.
Hi again, everyone. Giving a few seconds for everyone to sit down and prepare the phones and so on. Hello, Paloma.
Hello. Sorry, I couldn't connect my camera before. I solved it with Maritza. I think I didn't have the access or whatever, but now everything works.
Now it's working.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, thank you very much for the event.
Thank you for everything. Okay, I think it's 11 Western time, 12 Central European time. Actually, Paloma, this is not your turn yet. But I saw your camera and I was assuming so, but it's actually Hugo.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry for that. But it's good to know that you're there. Hugo,
I will reconnect.
Are you there?
Hi, I'm here. Yes.
Hi. So introducing Hugo. Hugo Furtado is the CEO of Dreamwaves, and startup focused on augmented reality for blind people. So helping blind people navigate through the city, wherever they want to go. Most blind persons, as far as I know, tend to walk where they feel comfortable, places they know, they already know their path. But Dreamwaves wants to help them go further. So Hugo, let's go for this.
Hi, my name is Hugo. I'm the CEO of Dreamwaves, and we want to help blind people see the world through their ears. Orientation is a fundamental challenge. In the old days, we used to ask for directions on the street. Nowadays, with smartphones, we use a navigator to go wherever we have to go to. But it's not easy for everyone. For elderly people who sometimes have a hard time using technology and feel unsafe about navigation, or for people riding a bike who can't or shouldn't look at the screen, using a navigator can be challenging. But especially for blind people, using a navigation app, using only turn-by-turn instructions to go somewhere is a very challenging task. So we've decided to create a navigation app which can take people everywhere simply by listening. With our app, you simply have to listen to the direction of a sound and follow that sound to go somewhere. It runs on a smartphone, you can hang it on the chest like in the picture, and you have to wear headphones, such as the models here shown below. How does that work exactly? Our app calculates a route just like a normal navigation app. And then we use augmented reality to place virtual waypoints embedded in the real world. And with the headphones, you can hear these waypoints. So now you hear a waypoint just in front of you. You easily know that you just have to walk straight. When you get there, the sound stops and starts at the next waypoint. And now you hear it to your left and you simply have to walk in that direction. When you get there, the sound stops and again you hear it to your right and you go to your destination. Why are we doing this now? Why audio augmented reality now? On the one hand, there are more and more augmented reality enabled smartphones in the market. And on the other hand, there are hearables, smart headphones with sensors that can track your head position. And together, they are the perfect platform for audio augmented reality. And this platform is booming. In the HiReach project, we set out to extend our existing pedestrian-only prototype with public transport capabilities. On the one hand with routing, and on the other hand with a system to assist people getting on and off the buses. And also, we wanted to do then on the rollout an evaluation of the impact the system have for people's lives. With it just that, we implemented here, you can see that we implemented routes which are not only pedestrian but with public transport options. You can see the details of the route, plan in the future and so on. And we also implemented a web-based planning application which you can use to plan your routes save them into your account, and have them the day after, for instance, in your mobile app. Now I'll show you briefly how does that work. What do you feel with the app? As I said, you just have to type in a destination, you select one of the suggestions, then you get a route suggested, and when you start, you'll see those
head towards Marksargus
in the real world. And if you have headphones now, you'll also hear the direction of the sound. You see, as you move, that waypoint is always there on the street. So, going now to the important part, the rollout evaluation. What we did in the last couple of months, we acquired and processed more images for our machine learning assistant system to get on and off the bus. We also invited a lot of sighted beta testers that helped us grab those app crashes and user interface problems that we had not seen before. But the most important, and where I'll focus just after this, is on the observation workshops. So what we did is we invited 8 people, 7 fully blind and 1 visually impaired, to test our app. And we went with them on the street and observed how could they use it and which impact did it have for them through a questionnaire. So they had an easy route so that we could make sure that they understood the mechanics of the app, how did that work, and then they were doing a complicated app. We made it a bit challenging on purpose so we could really assess, can they use this app only to get to that destination, and how does it feel for them? So I'll show you a small video of one of the users testing the app. He is now crossing the road, and for instance here, he now listens to the sound in front of him, and now he should turn left, but he misses that turn by a little bit. But soon after, he starts hearing the feedback, so he will hear the sound then to his left, and he will immediately understand that he should have turned left. See, now here's it. Thinks for a very, very short while, and he knows I should have taken that left. And now he's following the sound and going straight. You see on the next example, he crosses the street and then he should turn left, so now he still hears the sound in front of him, and at some point it's almost automatic. You will just start hearing the sound to his left and will turn immediately because it's very, very intuitive. You heard it? He just confirms to make sure that's the right direction, and he keeps following the sound. And so 6 of the people that we invited completed the routes quite easy. They did it almost without our intervention. And they really told us, we had a questionnaire afterwards, they really told us, this is a completely different paradigm of navigating. We asked them, how does this compare to other systems? And they said, there's no comparison. This is a very different way of navigating. They really like the fact that they have a constant feedback where they have to go. So they always know it's this direction or that direction or behind. And it's constant. And this is something that they like. It was also unobtrusive. They didn't complain that would just hinder the sounds from the rest of the world, so they liked it a lot. One of the users even said it's a bit like seeing because of this constant feedback. So people really, really felt more safe, more confident while navigating. They went really fast, and many of them even told us that they had fun. Going a little bit on the business aspect of things, I told you about before of this platform, smartphones and hearables, and I just want to say that the forecast for 2022 is that there are around 2 billion of these devices sold to people already. So this is the number of people that could actually run our app. Looking at the blind market, it's about 250 million worldwide. And if you take a freemium model like the one we propose with the free layer and all these different subscription values, we could reach a 40 million yearly revenue in Europe alone. If you consider other groups like elderly people and bike riders, then this number would be even much higher. There's a lot of competition on the navigation landscape, but most of the competition is not as precise as we are in terms of localization because they use GPS only. And the ones that are more precise, they don't use this intuitive and constant feedback as we do in our app. We have a great team, and I'm really happy to say that Giovanni just joined us, and the plan is that he will become the CTO in the future. We also have a very experienced product designer, a great mobile app developer. Elke is doing the usability research, he's very experienced in that, and Harriet is our community manager. So after all we did, we are now fundraising 300,000 euros to improve our localization algorithm, to put the app in the App Store, and to enter the market. So join us and help us help blind people see the world through their ears. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hugo. It's been, for me, really emotional to see these images of your product working and how useful it is already being. It's really amazing to see this. So, same question as for the other startups. Your case has been the case where, you know, things went along with the plan. You had a plan, you knew exactly what to do, and you're taking these steps. And what was your main lesson in this journey?
I should have this question very well prepared because you asked it to everyone. I think one of the things, I wouldn't say it was a learning, but at least a relearning or something we were really reminded. Even if we have a plan and we had a lot of challenges like everyone because of COVID and so on, but even if we have a plan and we can kind of make the plan, there's only so many things that we can improve still. And for us, being a part of the programming, interacting with João and with all the other mentors, and executing the plan provided us with so many challenges, and we had a lot of opportunities to improve a lot. And this really reminded us of something we kind of knew, but we learned it again. We always have so much room for improvement, and it has been like this.
Okay, Rene from CityMass is asking if this technology can be used for indoor navigation.
Sure. Actually, the first prototype that we ever had was indoor, and the technology was exactly the same. So what we do now outdoor, the big difference is that we already have maps, but the tracking technology is the same. So whenever we have a map of a venue, we can do indoor localization, we can do indoor navigation. Yes.
Okay. So we have a long question
yes.
from Alejandro. Let me see if I can figure it out.
Yes.
To ensure the safety of pedestrians, for example, the sound of the app does not intervene with traffic light audio indication, so the person can hear when to stop or cross a sidewalk. And finally, do you have intention to expand these ideas for indoors? Okay, this is already answered.
Yeah.
But the first part of the question.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And this is also something that we were very happy to see. So we're very careful with the sound design. With this, what you hear is kind of, we have 3 sound options, but you hear kind of a drumming sound. And we have this open headphones, so you wear them. People wear these glasses, these Bose glasses, but there are other options. But people really told us, I like this a lot because it's not interfering with the outside. Because they could hear the sound, but it was really not obtrusive. It was really not interfering. Actually, we crossed quite some traffic lights with the sound, and it was not interfering at all. And this is something, it was a part which we had uncertain, because of course the sound design is and will still be very important. There are a lot of things that we already know that we want also to change, but we saw that it was not interfering with the outside world. Because some of our users, they never used 2 headphones at all, and they were not bothered by that. That was cool. Actually, some of them went out and bought those frames, which we should somehow profit from too.
Great. I think I can ask one more question. You said you're trying to raise 300,000. What's the next steps? What you want to invest in your development?
So we want to, first of all, we want to improve the localization method. So there are some uncertainties in our localization, and we could clearly see them. Some parts of that, and that was also a big advantage now, is that we can see how users can cope with them. So for instance, if the user has to go straight, but the app has a wrong orientation and tells the user to go slightly towards the left or the right, they feel the building there, or they feel the curb of the sidewalk, and they don't go away from the sidewalk. They understand, people understand they should keep going straight even if it's, but on the other hand, some imprecisions tell people to go too much forward, or tell them to turn too early. And we want to make that better. We want to make the precision better. We know how to do that. We have been already working a bit on that, and the next year we're going to work a lot on that. And that's why Giovanni, which is actually there, that's one of the tasks that Giovanni has. He actually worked before in guidance apps for blind people, which is a perfect fit for us. That's one thing. And the other thing is keep doing this. So what we started now with the users, some of our users asked us, can I keep the app? Yeah, of course. The plan is that they keep using it. And we want to keep the plan for at least the next 6 months is do a very intensive feedback rounds with users and to achieve the product market fit. I mean, we learned now they really like this new paradigm of navigation. That was very important, but we need to make it fit as much as possible. So those are the two things. It's like technical and the market that we want to work on in the coming year.
We don't have time for an extra question, but I'll mention it to you anyway. Andre Marque was asking, what is the go-to-market strategy? And I guess that will be relevant for investors as well. Okay, let's move forward to Hoop Carpool. Paloma Martin is with us. Hi, Paloma, again. She's
Hello.
sharing their story with their product, which is a flexible carpooling platform within a community with shared values for everyday rides. Within HiReach, they focused particularly with hospitals, both hospital workers and patients. And this is really, I guess, an amazing story, considering that we are within this COVID situation. So, Paloma, let's go for that.
Perfect. Hello again, everybody. We hope you and your families are doing fine during this tough situation. Just refreshing. We are Hope, a carpooling solution for daily commuting that increases car occupancy rate, making individual mobility more sustainable. So far, we have been focused on capital cities like Madrid, mainly collaborating with big corporates and universities, which gave us a 5,000 active users community already. As we wanted to give our company a higher social value, we entered HiReach, intending to gain access to other more vulnerable sectors in society. And that is how we gave birth to Hoop Carpool for hospitals and rural areas. Thanks to all of you, we started conversations with 2 different hospitals, having the one in El Escorial signing the agreement first. To our surprise, they fell in love with carpooling as an alternative to their patients and employees who don't have good access to public transport or is not comfortable enough for them. No sustainable mobility solutions are available, and other options like taxis are quite expensive for this type of citizens. Also, we launched a survey in the hospital to confirm people's interest. And guess what? 95% of the people that drive to hospital will share their rides. And actually, 86% of the people we asked think carpooling will make patients' life easier. So, we got down to work. And while we were having several meetings with the hospital manager and his team, COVID came to our lives. And right, you will be thinking, wait a minute, how is COVID situation affecting this project, the hospital, and mobility sector in general? And as you know, the whole world stopped. So mobility sector completely reduced its activity. But what about the future? We kept working harder than ever, following closely mobility news, and suddenly, we received a call from the hospital. Guess what? They were also aware of lots of studies talking about the expectation of a huge increase of private vehicle use. Of course, mainly to avoid public transport agglomeration. Reason why the hospital literally told us, we have a carpooling emergency. They needed to start scheduling all the appointments delayed because of COVID. So they needed more than ever a safe mobility solution to offer to their patients regarding the 2 new priorities for people, risk and cost. This put carpooling together with unipersonal mobility solutions as one of the preferred alternatives by citizens right now. Then we stipulated the safer way to share rides by limiting 2 people per car, sitting in diagonal, wearing masks compulsory,
and offering drivers a disinfection kit. So they started thinking, could the project get bigger? We could actually include every municipality around the hospital. So that is our pilot project now. 4 different municipalities plus the hospital of El Escorial. So where in this process are we right now? First, we are helping out the hospital to build an appointment scheduling system so they can organize patient medical appointments by where they live, increasing this way the possibilities of finding a Hoop cargo lead. In second place, we are organizing a press conference together with the hospital in order to launch this collaboration publicly. To this event, they will attend very important professionals in Spanish health system, such as different municipalities, councillors, and other public hospitals general managers. And now, I leave you with Carlos, our CTO, so he can present our technology.
Regarding the product part, this is the new app version that we have been developing in the last months. We have analyzed the UX of the current version, studied the best international competitors, and interview users weekly to build the best app for connecting hospitals and rural areas. First, the registration, as you can see, is very fast and does not require a password. Now, we also send a questionnaire by email evaluating your risk regarding COVID. Second, you can also enter extra information about your vehicle, like the model, if there is a space for a wheelchair or a baby chair. Third, by entering your email, we verify that it belongs to the hospital, which generates confidence in the platform. Moreover, the hospital can provide exclusive parking spaces for Hoop users, and we verify that the car has been shared with the registration plate. Now Sophie, a doctor at the hospital, can set up her weekly routine as a driver, establishing her origin, destination, time, the price, and allowing only one seat because of the COVID situation. In addition, our algorithm is now more intelligent, allowing to add stops in villages between the origin and the destination to pick up more passengers. On the other hand, Sarah, a patient, can also set up her schedules for those days when she goes to the hospital as a passenger and choose their drivers in the list that you can see here. Now, you can apply filters by gender, car accessibility, or whether you are a smoker or not, and then book your seat. And that's it. So let's move on. Andrea, how do we earn money?
Just refreshing, passengers pay drivers to share ride costs through the app, and Hoop just charges a 10% commission. So what do we expect from this pilot project? Around 600 hospital employees, 1,000 patients daily, and up to 180,000 citizens living in small municipalities of under 10,000 people each, and 60 kilometers away from the largest city. We strongly believe that we will be able to reduce 100 cars daily and save up to 80 tons of CO2 every year. In an imaginary world of scaling this segment in Spain with a total potential of 700 hospitals and Europe with more than 3,000 hospitals and around 163 million people living in rural areas, if we're supposed to achieve only 5% of it, Hoop Carpool for hospitals and rural areas could be a solution for 8.5 million people and could avoid millions of tons of CO2 to the atmosphere annually. And you may be thinking, oh, that sounds good, but why Hoop rather than any other carpooling solution or mobility alternative? Well, Hoop is cheaper and more sustainable than a taxi, more convenient than public transport, more reliable than other apps of carpooling in Spain, as we are leaders in Madrid, and the most important fact, more accessible than any other solutions, since you can filter your search by wheelchair accessibility, as you saw before in the demo, and safer, of course, than any other alternative of collective transport, since you only share a ride with one single person at a time. And who is behind this amazing project? Hoop's family. We are a team of 6 people developing technology, including 2 founders, 2 people, including myself, in commercial development, and 2 people, including Paloma, for marketing, being some of them volunteers that we hope to hire soon at some point. This team, together with our host hospital and you, is about to activate one of the most innovative projects that hospitals have supported so far in terms of mobility. And who is behind El Escorial Hospital? We leave you with some testimonials from the people that really need HiReach to help increase their well-being.
Buenos días, soy Javier Elviro, el gerente del Hospital Universitario El Escorial, un hospital que atiende a 12 municipios de la Sierra Noroeste de Madrid, aproximadamente 110.000 habitantes. El acceso al hospital desde estos municipios es difícil, especialmente en transporte público, tanto por la orografía como por la dispersión. Y de hecho el vehículo más utilizado es el vehículo particular. Participamos en este proyecto porque creemos que va a mejorar mucho la accesibilidad de los pacientes, especialmente los más vulnerables, También va a reducir la contaminación, el riesgo de accidentes, la necesidad de aparcamiento y una cosa importante, va a acostumbrar a la población mayor a utilizar apps, que es muy importante sobre todo para el seguimiento futuro de patologías crónicas a domicilio. Muchísimas gracias por confiar en nosotros para este proyecto y les esperamos cuando quieran en el Hospital Universitario El Escorial.
So, as a conclusion, we didn't just move forward with the hospital, but also with the 4 municipalities around it. This means we require more resources for marketing and communications than we did before. Patients and employees can't wait to incorporate carpooling into their routines to the hospitals. We need you, HiReach. Forever, thank you.
See you in the road, and remember, sharing is caring.
Thank you, Paloma and HOOP team, for this great presentation.
Thank you,
Paloma, this is a different thing for you, to the context of hospitals and rural areas. You already shared a lot in the presentation, but what were your main lessons from this?
Sure. Thank you very much to HiReach for this amazing program. It's hard to actually just highlight one lesson because we have received so many. But in summary, for us, as you know, we are a carpooling solution. We have been for more than 1 year in the market, and normally we were focused on a different user case, which is people that share rides in order to go to work or to universities. So for us, the main lesson that we received is how to actually analyze and detect a new user case, how to study the whole process, and together with very good professionals, how to actually adapt your product to that new user case with the less amount of resources invest, let's say. So as we always say as a startup, we really do need collaboration in order to grow. So we wouldn't have made it without you, that's for sure. Thanks to HiReach program, we actually could, in a very agile way, get in contact with this hospital and actually got an agreement signed by a public hospital, which in Spain is normally really long in order to achieve that. So for me, that the lesson is to actually detect that new user case, analyze it properly together with very good professionals, and of course having the collaboration of programs like HiReach in order to get access to institutions in this case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, I think for people, a lot of doubts come when it regards for people to share trips to hospitals. First, now in this moment of the COVID-19, of course, there are all these questions about whether people want to share the same space, but there are also other challenges, like instead of this being regular trips, we're talking about trips that are not daily, in the case of patients. Could you walk us through a little bit on the challenges that you found and what you discovered?
Sure. Actually, there are obviously 2 phases in this project. We met each other and we started the project when COVID didn't exist, at least not as hard as it did later. So at first, we detected the need from people to actually, especially in rural areas, to get access to hospitals apart from private transport like taxis, which is normally very expensive for people, and more specifically for people that live in rural areas. And at the same time, because we are talking about patients that go regularly to the hospital, but as you said, maybe they go once a week to do rehab, or they go once a month, or they just go sporadically. So for these people, it happens that public transport is not as convenient as it would be another solution. Also, people, as we said, with mobility restrictions and stuff, is not as convenient. And then the other more private and more secure ways to go, which will be a taxi, is too expensive. So we found a very interesting gap there, and we tested, as you saw in the survey, we tested if actually the patients would like this service, and more important, if the employees of the hospital would like this service. And it came out that especially the employees were very willing to actually do carpooling, because, as you know, we work with companies of 500, 700 and thousands of employees, but just in one hospital, they work like 2,000 people. So these actual employees are very good drivers, let's say, to these other patients, so they actually can commute together. So we found that need, we tested it, we saw we had an opportunity, and then COVID came to our lives. So for some months, as we all know, the activity completely stopped. But now that this new normality is beginning to work again, we are finding that even now carpooling is more needed by these people, also because when you go in buses or in trains, you are actually sharing a space with thousands of people that are there with you, and the people that were before in the train, in the bus, and all that. So carpooling is a really individually way to transport, and you can actually reduce your exposition to COVID situation. So we found that the passengers are more willing to carpool now. It's true that the drivers now need a little bit more of incentive to actually share their rides. So that's why we have campaigns on now, and we are investing our marketing money in double the benefit of the driver. If a passenger pays €2, who pays another €2? So actually the driver gets well paid for offering his car to other people, so they can avoid agglomerations due to transport. So that was the process, and we have a very opportunity now, and really happy to actually support society in this moment.
Great, and we're really proud to have had this case and given you the chance to develop it further. And we're absolutely curious to see and pushing that it will work well, and that this will be a reality in the future life of hospitals and patients.
Of course, we will keep you updated.
Thank you, Paloma.
Thank you very much.
We're going towards the end. We've had all of our 5 finalist startups presentations presenting their pilots. We were very fortunate to see that all of the 5 managed or are managing a pilot, which sometimes it seems that it's going to happen, but then it doesn't happen. But we're really happy to see the results. So we have 2 more presentations. Please don't go away, anyone. Let's say goodbye. Well, of course, we'll keep in touch. There are still issues to handle with the startups, but let's take a final picture. So everyone, please still stick to the end. And next speaker is Paulo Ferreira dos Santos from UbiRider, a startup that is focusing on making fragmented travel experiences a thing of the past. So we're talking about mobility as a service here. It's a really great challenge because you have to engage with so many different operators and cities. Paulo is going to speak a bit about this challenge, I guess also about their challenge of creating a startup. It's not the first time that he's doing this. So really looking forward to your presentation, Paulo.
Let's unmute. Thank you very much for this opportunity and for being here with you guys. And let's see if I can add some value to this event. So I will start sharing my screen, if you don't mind. I will not focus too much on my share. Okay. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, let's.
Perfect.
UbiRider is a startup that started in 2018 with this ambition of connecting transport and mobility everywhere. So for a while, this is an idea that was crossing my mind maybe for the last 12, 15 years. I always traveled a lot, and I always found annoying. For a while, for example, I was moving between Holland, Germany, Belgium and Luxembourg, and it was really annoying moving 10 kilometers from one place and having to deal with a ticketing system totally different and a way of describing the options of transportation very differently. And I always wondered if we could find a smarter way of combining all transportation modes. Also, because when people ask me what is my profile of traveler, I have serious difficulties in defining it, because sometimes I'm rushing and maybe I want a taxi. Other times I'm with time and I want is to have a nice view, and so different places implies different requirements and different options that I want to have available for myself. And I was closing one startup.
I'm sorry, Paulo. We see a black screen there. We cannot see your your screen.
And now?
Now it's okay.
Yes, good.
Okay, so it's the view that is not allowed. So I was coming out from a startup, and most of the team want to keep together, and so we were thinking, what could we do next? And I found that finally the state of art of the technology, particularly of the smartphones, was powerful enough for all models to allow to have a different approach from everything that exists at this moment. And so we start UbiRider in July 2018. And we analyze, like all startups that are starting, what is in the market, and we found that two things that we could combine as what the companies that are, or startups that are in the market, were doing similar. So most of the startups for mobility as a service, they are city startups. So they grow city by city. So they are focused in a big number of users. Normally they start in places like London or Paris or Boston or New York, because there is a huge population, and that can be a good first case and big enough. But the problem of growing city by city is that people don't move just inside cities. So sometimes I like to go to visit André at Lisbon, and I need to know how to go from Porto to Lisbon. And I don't want to jump to substitute the fragmentation of the transportation by the fragmentation inside of my smartphone, having an app for each place that I travel. And so we decide that we would not grow city by city, but operator by operator. So allowing that we could integrate any operator inside of a city, but also outside cities. In fact, we position ourselves as a cross-border company. So we want is that someone can move everywhere And we don't want to give up of this huge challenge, because when we think between cities is one challenge. When we think between countries is a huge challenge. And when we think combining different countries is even worse or more difficult. But we think it is doable, and it is possible. The other thing that we found is that most of the startups start by the easy side. So integrating services that are private, that are new, and that they are very digital. So I'm talking about on-demand, e-hailing, bikes, or scooters. So things that has appeared in the last years. But we believe that if we want to judge really the relevance of a city, we need to go to mass transits. We need to go for buses, we need to go for trains, because even the people that drive a car, they don't have the notion that they can drive a car, because there is a lot of people that goes in public transportation. Because if all moving from public transportations, getting in the city and getting out of the city at the end of the day, the mobility will be zero, because there is not enough space for all the cars. Particularly when nowadays, almost 80% of the population in almost all the countries live inside cities. So we know that is a big challenge, but we start by there, because mass transit exists, it is in place and running, and most of the technology that they run or they use is outdated. And there is a reason there is to be outdated. In most of the places, there is no incentive to change. But we believe that if we can come with a strong value proposition, we can think in transforming mass transportation and touch a lot of people. After combining mass transit with other transportation means or other mobility means is much easier. So, for example, a mobility mean for us is not just a transportation, but is also a toll or a park. So we start thinking, how do we travel today? What are the problems? So is no more affordable to get more cars inside of the cities, even with the COVID. And after the COVID, I believe that the push for reducing the number of cars inside cities will continue for two main reasons. So we can't still polluting, because we are going to destroy our planet, and there is a strong agenda for sustainability that and cars represents maybe 30% of the pollution. And the second is the lack of space. So if you see London, the empty space that is not buildings, 80% is occupied by cars. There are streets or are car parking. And if the city wants to develop, they need to find other ways and steal space to the car. So reducing the number of cars inside of the city is paramount nowadays. So, and when we go to public transportation services, we have a huge problem of lousy experience, fragmented, no attachment between, sometimes between a bus and the train, that it is necessary to be disrupted easily. So as I said here, there are the two main problems that we face, or all cities face every day. So congestion, so we have our own car and we control our travel, but we spend a lot of time on queues, and we spend a lot of our time that we could spend with the people that we like, we spend inside of cars doing absolutely nothing, then seeing WhatsApp, messages, Facebook, and hearing music. So is where we focus. The big challenge here is to focus on the experience. And believe me, when you arrive to a public transportation that has a system that was installed in the 80s of last century, and you start talking with them about customer experience or improving the experience, is a hard and very awkward conversation. Because most of them, when we ask them, do you know your customers, your travelers? They say, yes, we know all of them. So normally the conversation stopped at my first question. So tell me, are they female more or more male? They don't know. They don't know nothing about customers. And now, and this is quite a challenge, arriving with a new technology and trying to convince them and to force them to change for another thing. The only conversation that they understand, and it is where we work a lot, is that we can reduce their costs or we can improve their revenue. So we built an app that is an app that allows, like any planner, plan the travels, but the aim is getting portfolio to sell of tickets and passes. So we allowing that someone can plan a travel, pay the tickets or the passes, and go, and being guided from one point to another, and getting on the top of that relevant information. So we have an engine of communication with the app that allows that the operator can transmit a lot of information relevant for a passenger during the travel. And nowadays, more important, things like the next bus that will arrive is full, so wait 10 minutes more for the next, or the bus that is arriving was disinfected 10 minutes ago. That is nowadays a very important information to get. So, and how we decide or what we have done also to convince the operators. So some operators and some cities, they aim to build their own app. Why they want their own app? They want their app mainly to get information about the ridership and the passengers that they could explore to improve their operation. So, but jumping from online to mobile is a huge jump because of the way that we use apps. You want an amazing and simple user experience, and you want it every day improved. So for a company that sells travels of buses or trains, is quite a challenge to deal with these requirements. So what we solve to them is we position ourselves as an alternative mobile channel, but we have this Peak Insights platform where they can get all the information generated by the users of our app in their operation free of charge. So they can know, for example, a bus operator can know that there are 3 people on this bus stop waiting for the bus using our app pickup. Or they can know that there are other 5 that are inside of this bus between these 2 stops. And this is much more information that they have now. They can know if they are male or female. That is the question that I normally place to them. And they can know a lot about their habits. So they can refine the way their operation in a way that they can serve more people and better. And at the same time, reduce their costs and increase their revenue. So we found also, because some operators said, oh, this is great, but I still have a problem. I still have a problem in allowing you to integrate with our APIs because our system is too old, and I would like to go further. So we found also another opportunity there, particularly for bus operators, that is using our platform to get information also from the bus. So we develop another app for the driver of the bus that allows to receive payments, to check the passengers that is getting inside of the bus if they have already paid with a mobile phone or if they want to pay with a credit card or with the card from the city, the travel card from the city. And at the same time, we can follow the GPS and using this information to give information in real time to the travelers on the next stop. So they can know if the bus is delayed or if it is on time. And this is a huge impact, it brings a huge impact on what we call CapEx. So with a simple equipment that is just a smartphone, they can do all these functionalities. They can get all these functionalities and reducing the investment that they have in equipment. And at the same time, as they can manage everything on a true Peak Insights on the cloud, they can reduce also the costs with OpEx, with operations. So there is a huge market because people in Europe spends around 13% of their annual income on transportation. So is after housing, the second biggest expense that all of us have. So we spend a lot of money on transportation, but we don't have the best experience. So we want is to offer the most value for this amount and get the maximum for our startup from this amount that we can. So we applied and use, and it is another thing that is quite complex for a startup, is dealing with more than one business model, but we found it essential if we want to convince from one side the operators, from the other side the users. So we have, we operate with two business models. For the ones that want to use the picking sites with the operation management, we charge them a monthly fee as software as a service. For the others, that has everything, and want just a channel for their travels, we charge just a fee or a commission for each ticket or pass that we sell. So and COVID brought us enormous opportunities, even if we are suffering now because all transportation is more or less stopped. But we believe that the future will be brighter for us and more digital than ever, because this impact on revenue of operators is pushing them to move for solutions like the one that we are offering, that are more digital and cheaper and cheaper. The main thing to make this simpler and cheaper is exactly what we are bringing here, is substituting the enormous quantity of hardware for software, and particularly the infrastructure that we are using is the smartphone, because is nowadays the only hardware that matters. So as all the sensors and all the resources that are necessary to manage all this complex platform, and the better for operators is that they don't need to buy our smartphones. So we spend the money in the infrastructure that they need to jump for this digital solution. And that's it. So we've been talking a lot about this new approach, and what we are using is using our capabilities, particularly on machine learning and artificial intelligence, to transform this incredible amount of data that exists nowadays in transportation from different sources in simple knowledge. And actionable knowledge for improving the experience for all of us that travel, but also for the ones that provide those services to us.
Okay, Paul, thank you very much for bringing your experience and lessons to share with the HiReach team, the startups, and all the audience. It has been really interesting for me. We have a couple of questions already, and maybe because they are from the panelists, I could invite them to put the questions for themselves. So the first one will be Rene. Rene, do you want to directly ask the question to Paul?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Paolo. Thank you so much for your presentation. My questions is around data. It's quite fascinating to hear your technology using machine learning and artificial intelligence to deal with vast amount of data. And as you quite rightly point out in your presentation, many different countries, operators, and as well as different mode of transportation, different way of doing things is quite complex. And to achieve that kind of uniform way of mass systems in a scalable and globally in a global stage, it's certainly challenging. I would like to get your thoughts on how you deal with the data fragmentations across different sources.
Nowadays there is almost a standard called GTFS. So it's So is a system that allows any transportation mode or transportation operator to disclose digitally their operation. So for the ones that are not familiar with this expression, so if I'm a bus operator, I can put in a file, where are my stops, where is the geolocation of my stops, what are the routing that, or the services that I provide, and the schedules is the minimum. So this was very popular because this was created by a researcher, I believe from Portland, and Google was looking for a system, so they hired the guy and adopt this system and becomes a standard. So the G is not from Google, but is from Global Transportation Feed System. So this is more or less a standard. So it is what allows us when we arrive to any place in the world and we pick Google Maps and we want to go from one place to another and knowing what we can do. A big difference, and this is widely used. I normally say there are two kinds of operators in the world: the ones that have a GTFS and the ones that are in train of having a GTFS. I believe that almost all the places will have. So normally we write to an operator and say, do you have a GTFS? Provide us the same file. Most of the operators, for example, the Americans, they have on their website. It's free of charge. You can go there and pick it. So we use I believe that all startups on this arena use this GTFS. After, there is a second thing, a second layer, that is the ticketing. So normally what we do is we replicate the same tickets and passes that any operator use with the same rules. So if the ticket allows that I change from one transportation to another, if it is controlled by origin, destination, or by time, or by geographical zone. So this, we need an Excel file with all these rules. The third thing is the payments. So they say, okay, how do I want to be paid? And that is a trick that we are using and that we decide to do. So if you are using my app and you are paying a ticket, you are not paying to me, you are paying directly to the provider. So, and this builds one essential thing when we are arriving with when we are a new supplier, is building trust. So I can tell and I can prove to any operator in the world that I don't cheat them because they are the ones that receive the money from my customers. So they receive the money and after they pay us a commission, And this thing of the payments is when we start to be provider, we were counting that the new regulation of open banking would have a huge impact on providing more digital solutions for the payments, cheaper costs on the transactions, and we combine all this. Let me tell you another thing that we do, and technologically, if you go to Google Maps, and you say, I want to go from where I am to another place, you need to decide if you are going on public transit and you have a filter there, or if you are going to drive, you have another filter, or if you are going to walk. So what we have as different of Google Maps is that we combine all the options in one way, so that maybe you could go by your car to the city until the limit of the city, park, and we can integrate also the park, and we can integrate even the toll. If suppose that you are on a highway, and after you could pick a bus to go to the city center instead of driving until the city center. So it's a huge challenge. So it's a work for ants. So you need to get all the information and put it together. But I think we have now, this was quite this challenge. We solve it on a better organization on our back end of the platform that allows that we can integrate a country if necessary. If the operators has an information minimum organized, we can integrate the country in less than 24 hours.
Yeah. Just if I can, a quick one.
Just sorry to interrupt because it's getting late.
Oh,
I could see by your expression that you are really curious.
Yeah,
no more, and maybe Paulo can also learn a bit from your own experience. So I will make sure to put you both in contact.
That I appreciate.
Okay.
Brilliant.
And
thank you.
Andre, very quickly, and for a quick answer as well, Andre, I wanted to put a question as well to Paul.
Oh, I'm waiting.
Okay. Hi, Paulo. I think you have to mute yourself because we are in the same room here. So thank you so much for your time to be here with us. It's been a while. I guess you already explained a little bit during your presentation, and you actually stressed that solving the ticketing problem is very ambitious, is very challenging, because this is a very fragmented market. But don't you think, Paulo, that established players like Uber, like Bolt, are already better positioned to become one-stop shops for ticketing hubs? And if you see some of these transportation hubs, you already can you can already register or book a number of mobility options. So you are a very small David in a market of lots of Goliaths out there. So how do you think you can have any chances being such a little David against such big Goliaths in such a not only competitive, but I would say almost mental market, because it's such a fragmented market. It's with so many little companies. So we were speaking with René the other day here in Lisbon, and she was telling us that only in Portugal we have in Portugal alone, and it's a very small country, we have over 700 bus operators, and there are hundreds or tens of thousands of mobility operators of bus lines and so on in Europe alone. So isn't this too hard? And when you approach investors, aren't they afraid that this is simply too hard for a startup has a problem to approach? So what's your, because we understand the vision is great. The customer experience, is what we really want. We don't want to keep, changing apps, and now I buy the train, and now I buy the bus, and now I buy the subway, and now I buy this and that. But
I think
I just want to have your take on that.
I think so. First, I was expecting a tough question from your side, and I was not wrong. And there are several questions on that. Let's split it in slices, in small slices. I will try to do it as fast as possible. So one of the things that imply that we start by the public transportation, one of the reasons why we start from the public transportation is it was stupid if I was trying to beat Uber on their field. So Uber is trying, like others are trying now, to aggregate also public transportation, and they are facing huge difficulties. I can tell you that we start developing when we start develop this, we did with a train operator in Lisbon called Fertagos, and we went there 1 week after they had a meeting after of a meeting that they had with Uber. And we won the challenge. They said, we want to work with you, we don't want to work with Uber. First, because they want to come to us to impose their rules, and we don't want their rules. The second thing is Uber is what is called a walled garden. So it's exactly that. They want everything on their ecosystem. We are an open garden. So this is another approach. And we see that we can partner, we can bring value in a partnership, for example, with a company than with Uber, because we do things that they don't know how to do. So, and it is what it is, a startup. When you mentioned that the challenge is huge, so what is the point of building a startup and doing what all the others are doing? So we need to go for a big challenge. We need to go for a big challenge. Said that, so we are getting some special skills that very few startups in the world on this arena are building. Because I know this game quite well. It's quite difficult. The most difficult thing that a CEO of a startup can need to do is say no to their investors. So investors want everything simple, everything simple. So I want simple, but I want a big opportunity. Is incompatible. We can't do both. So my main role and my main difficulty is saying to my investors, no, you invest on us to do this. So let's keep, there is nothing. If there is something to change the way, we change it. If there is nothing, then just fear to change the way, I will not change because of fear. I feel fear every day. But that is not always rational, and it is my role to fight these things. The other thing is what I was saying to René is that the GTFS, or the digital description of an operation, Google made an incredible work. So when people say to me, what you have different from other startups? I normally say, let's talk what we have in common with all startups. Or I will say, in all companies working on this field, all of us, we are customers of Google. It's incredible. Even Apple is a customer of Google. And what we do is like others. So we use different parts of Google, but we put our sauce on the middle to make it different. And I'm quite happy because this didn't happen because of the COVID, but I'm one of the few Portuguese that was invited for the 15th anniversary of Google in Sunnyvale, because they are really aware that we do something with their products that even for Google increase value. Where I face bigger problems is arriving to investors and say, this is possible, this is a big challenge, I need your money to make it in place. And particularly in Europe, the Americans are a little bit less risk adverse, but in Europe we are talking about bringing innovation to the market, but we still having a lot of conservative investors that they want differentiation, but not a big differentiation. But nowadays, I think it is possible for a small company, and it is not necessarily huge amount of money, but to beat companies like Uber. Because I don't know if you ever tried the Uber pool, for example. I use it when it started in San Francisco. Nobody in San Francisco was happy because more traffic for the city, the travels very long to arrive to small places. So I still a great believer that we need to find the right balance between public transportation and other transportation means. And the right balance is a big chunk on public transportation or mass transit to achieve that. So it's a huge challenge, and we can die trying to achieve it, but it's been fun.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Paul, for sharing all of this. Good luck with your journey.
I would definitely want to talk with René if you can make this reach, and I leave the challenge to René to book as soon as possible a conversation with you.
Yes, I will put you both in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this opportunity also to André. As he said, it was a long time, and it's always a pleasure to talk with him. And I wish the best for the HiReach. I think having you guys involved is assured very good quality of the events and also of the accelerator. Keep doing it. We need it.
Thanks. Okay, we're reaching the end, but not before the project coordinator, here represented by Cosimo Cifi, gives some final words. Cosimo Cifi is following the HiReach Startup Lab from very close, and in some cases helping startups as well. And he will give the final words. Don't go away after that. Let's take a group picture, because unfortunately we cannot be together. That was a shame. And yeah, after that I'll ask you to turn the cameras on. But now the word is to Cosimo. Cosimo.
Thank you, Joao. I hope you can hear me properly. I decided just to stand up instead of having the same view.
It looks nice.
Just a few words or closing words after this demo day event from the project consortium of HiReach. We, as TRT Trasporti e Territorio, we are the project coordinator, but we did it with other great partners, universities, consultancies, associations of passengers, for examples, and these are the partners of HiReach. And when we started this, it was because we answered to a call from the Horizon 2020 research program of the European Commission. Just to remember you that we are talking about a project that is dealing with research. But when we started, the topic was mostly related to, was asking us to work on new business model for public transport and to target those vulnerable areas or vulnerable segments, social segments. We did it, and together with Joao, when we started to think about the project proposal, we tried to add in mind kind of innovation, trying to give our hope in and also most of the results of this project in the hands of innovative startups and innovative entrepreneurs. You remember, Joao, we did it at the very beginning. We were successful in it. I'm very glad of all the startups that participated in our acceleration program. And what is changed during these 3 years? We are almost to the end of the project. It's changed because we are not only no more dealing only with the issue of transport poverty or mobility poverty. But in the meantime, we are not only having a look at the dichotomy between a city or urban areas and non-urban areas. So we discovered that mobility solution should keep a balance and should offer proper solution to all the different geographies of that we have in Europe. Not only rural areas, island, mountainous areas that are, of course, they are quite critical, but also peri-urban, dispersed area or peripheries of urban areas. So we had a look also, and we had the possibility to work and to look at the needs of the vulnerable groups, elderly people, migrants, children, disabled people, people living in rural areas. We had the chance to look at their needs. What I'm realizing now at the end of the acceleration program is that when the startups answer to us, so what have you found as interesting in this acceleration process, in participating at this research project, is that we maybe provided them with very useful insight into those needs. The needs of certain territories, but also the needs of certain social groups. And it means that if you design a service, a mobility service, a mobility solution that is targeted to one of these social groups or to one of these or to more geographical contexts, then you are defining something that is affordable and is possible to be used by everybody. So we were quite successful in doing it, and I'm very glad to the colleagues of the HiReach consortium. As we have seen, and also as we heard now with the last speaker, is that there are a number of solutions that are already there. Google, the APIs, for example, that we also put as resources for free are there. And what we discovered is also that also small startups, very innovative entrepreneurs, can really provide useful solutions and innovative business models to the society. And it's not only a matter of having a profit from the business, it's also trying to get more into the available resources from policy makers, for example, or available resource, public funding that is there, but is not often properly matched. So what is very useful for me to say is that we are not only dealing with a solution for having a more innovative public transport. We have public transport. We discovered that we can be flexible. We can offer on-demand transport, including solution in dispersed areas. As Nemi said at the beginning, it was challenging for them to properly design something in an area that is bigger and it serves different towns. We also discovered that when you collaborate with a public authority, a hospital, for example, also a very simple solution could give us a big added value. Having this schedule, appointment schedule matched with a carpooling is another great value. When we deal with the needs of disabled people, we discover that it's not only a matter of having accessible and inclusive transport services, but it's also of having them and having people, vulnerable people, having to navigate to access to the information through the apps, for example, to learn more about the timetables, to have accessible tools, and also to navigate into the city. So I'm very happy because when we had the chance to work with the startups, we discovered that there's a lot to be done, still to be done. And they declared this because they learned a lot also from us as a researcher, as a consultant. So we are very happy for having provided them not only money, that is fundamental, but also a good insight into these problems, into mobility poverty as a big team. So I'm very happy for the results of that we achieved all together, that we can communicate not only to the European Commission, but also to the European people and the society and the policymakers all over Europe. And of course, this was the first time that mobility entered into the social science. And we, together with another project that is called Inclusion, we worked a lot in dealing with the challenges and the issues of mobility poverty and inclusive mobility. So today we presented you the final demo day of our selected startups. I would like to remember you that we selected at the very beginning in January almost 25 startups. We were with them also in Vienna at Impact Hub, that I would like to thank a lot for their precious work in giving us also the possibility to manage the acceleration program. And we were selecting them time by time, trying also to understand the ones that were already almost ready to provide some useful solutions. I've discovered that the 5 startups that participated in HiReach that get access to the third phase of our acceleration program, despite the COVID-19 disease, they tried also to make a lot of efforts in having precious pilots in the study areas where we worked all over Europe. On the website, you can find, of course, all the resources. And as just a last message from myself is to tell you that together with Inclusion, the sister project of HiReach, on the next 22nd of 22 of September at 2 p.m. we will present the final conference of both projects, with speakers, with contents where you can have the chance also to learn more on the first part of our project and the result that we achieved. So thank you for attending this demo day, and thank you all for having listened about the solution that we provided you through HiReach. Thank you.
Thank you, Cosimo. Final words to the audience. Thank you so much for being with us in this last demo of the HiReach startups. If you want to talk with them, contacting them directly or through us, whatever you like. If you're interested somehow in discussing a HiReach 2.0, get in touch with us. And now let's go for the final picture with the 5 startups. We can't be together. It will be nicer, but let's do it as we can today. So cameras on, and I will make a snapshot. Just a second. I don't know if Pane and Simone are over there as well.
They're not.
Pane is. Simone, maybe not.
Let's do a fly circle, Paloma style.
Paloma style.
Andrea has a suggestion. Say it, Andrea, please.
You're mute, Andre.
Simone. Okay, everyone's in. Okay. So let's do it. Do something.
Thank you all.
Cool.
Great.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Very much.
Thank you.
The best.
Yeah, likewise, all the best.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
The best of luck. Thank you very much,
Thank
Joao,
you.
Andrea, everybody.
Bye. Bye, guys. All the best.
Thank you.
Everything.
Yes.
Cool.